In Hollywood, scandals often flicker and fade, but every now and then one ignites with such intensity that it sets the entire world talking. That is exactly what happened when Brynn Whitfield, poised, elegant, and usually in control, reached her breaking point. The cause? Sam Heughan's unwavering presence by Caitríona Balfe's side. For months, whispers had circled around Sam's close relationship with his Outlander co-star. Caitríona Balfe, beloved by millions for her portrayal of Claire Fraser, had faced one of the most difficult seasons of her life. Grueling health battles, the collapse of her marriage, and the glare of relentless media attention. Through it all, Sam was there. Not as a distant colleague, not as a passing friend, but as her anchor, checking in, showing up, holding steady when everything else seemed to crumble. To the outside world, it looked like loyalty. To Brynn Whitfield, Sam's rumored partner, it looked like betrayal. Tension rarely explodes without warning. Behind Brynn's glamorous public appearances, frustration had been quietly building. Friends noticed the subtle signs. Clipped tones when Sam's name came up, long silences whenever Caitríona was mentioned. At first, Brynn brushed it aside, convincing herself that Sam's devotion was nothing more than friendship. But the photographs told a different story. Images of Sam at Caitríona's side, carrying her bag into a clinic, adjusting her coat at a chilly premiere, whispering reassurance at a panel, flooded social media. Fans praised him as the perfect friend. Brynn, however, saw a man whose loyalty was slipping further and further away from her. The breaking point came one evening at a high-profile gathering. Sam had spent the afternoon with Caitríona, helping her prepare for her first public appearance since her hospitalization. By the time he arrived to meet Brynn, whispers had already spread through the room. He spent the day with her. Brynn, already raw with emotion, snapped. In front of shocked onlookers, her composure cracked. Words tumbled out, sharp and scathing. Accusations of neglect, of betrayal, of choosing Caitríona over her. Her voice, usually measured and melodic, rang out with a fury few had ever witnessed. "Do you ever think about me?" she shouted, her eyes blazing. "Or is it always her?" The room fell silent. Cameras, as always, were ready. Within minutes, clips of Brynn's outburst began circulating online. For those who had followed the story from afar, the explosion was almost surreal. Brynn Whitfield, known for her refinement, was suddenly at the center of a very public meltdown. The juxtaposition was jarring. The poised star unraveling in anger, the usually unshakable Sam caught in the middle, and Caitríona unwittingly cast as the lightning rod of the storm. Witnesses described the scene as electric and uncomfortable, a moment when personal pain spilled into the public eye with nowhere to hide. Through it all, Sam remained quiet. He did not shout back, did not attempt to defend himself in the heat of the moment. Instead, he stood still, his face a mask of conflict, caught between loyalty to Caitríona and responsibility to Brynn. His silence spoke volumes, igniting even more speculation. Did his refusal to deny Brynn's accusations mean they were true? Or was it an act of restraint, a choice to shield both women from further humiliation? The world could only guess. By the next morning, the headlines were merciless. Brynn explodes over Sam and Caitríona. Love triangle erupts. Outlander star at the center of scandal. Social media divided instantly. Some sympathized with Brynn, others defended Sam, and still others rallied around Caitríona, insisting she had been unfairly dragged into a mess she never asked for. Brynn's meltdown had lit the spark, but the fire was spreading quickly. Every look, every gesture, every word between the three of them was now under scrutiny. For Brynn, the damage was immediate, her image of control and elegance shattered in a single night. For Caitríona, the renewed spotlight was exhausting, another weight added to an already heavy burden. And for Sam, the storm raised a painful question. How do you balance loyalty to a lifelong friend with the demands of a relationship strained to its limit? As the dust settled from Brynn Whitfield's explosive outburst, one thing was clear. This was no fleeting drama. It was the start of a saga that would leave careers, reputations, and relationships forever changed. The night of Brynn Whitfield's explosion was only the beginning. By sunrise, The world was ablaze with headlines dissecting every detail of the confrontation. What had started as a private outburst in a crowded room became a public scandal of international proportions. And at the center of it all stood Sam Heughan, caught between two women whose names now dominated every conversation. Paparazzi footage of Brynn's meltdown looped endlessly across television screens. Clips replayed on social media with captions ranging from sympathetic to mocking. Analysts debated what it meant for Brynn's career, for Sam's reputation, and for Caitríona Balfe, who had been dragged unwillingly into the eye of the storm. Magazines speculated about a love triangle, painting Caitríona as either the victim of misplaced blame or the silent cause of Brynn's fury. Fan forums lit up with arguments, some defending Brynn's right to express her pain, others condemning her for targeting Caitríona so publicly. For Caitríona herself, the renewed scrutiny was exhausting. She had been focused on recovery and returning to her work, not on being the centerpiece of tabloid drama. Yet there she was, her every move photographed, her silence interpreted as guilt or strategy. In the days that followed, Brynn's initial rage gave way to regret. Friends close to her described her as devastated, replaying the outburst in her mind and realizing how much damage had been done. The elegance she had spent years cultivating seemed tarnished overnight. But her anger towards Sam had not vanished. "He should have chosen me," she confided to one confidant. "Instead, he keeps choosing her." The bitterness remained, fueled by the belief that loyalty to Caitríona had come at the expense of their relationship. Through it all, Caitríona maintained a dignified silence. She did not respond to accusations, did not engage with speculation. Instead, she poured her energy into her craft and leaned on those she trusted most. Her silence, however, only fueled the fire. "Why doesn't she speak?" commentators asked. Some saw it as grace under pressure, others as calculated avoidance. But those who knew Caitríona best understood the truth. She had no desire to turn private pain into public spectacle. For Sam, the situation was a nightmare with no clear resolution. His loyalty to Caitríona was unshakable. She had been his co-star, his confidant, and his anchor for nearly a decade. Walking away from her now was unthinkable. Yet Brynn's demands for exclusivity, her need to feel chosen, weighed heavily on him. Close friends described him as torn, pacing through long nights, caught between guilt and conviction. "He doesn't want to hurt anyone," one insider said. "But no matter what he does, someone will feel betrayed." When Sam finally spoke publicly, his words were measured but firm. "Friendship is not betrayal," he said. "I will always be there for Caitríona, just as she has always been there for me. That does not mean anyone else matters less, it means loyalty matters most." The statement quieted some critics but inflamed others. To Brynn, it felt like confirmation of her worst fears, that Caitríona would always come first. The fandom fractured into camps. Some rallied behind Brynn, empathizing with her pain and her sense of neglect. Others defended Sam, praising his loyalty and condemning the pressure to abandon a lifelong friend. And many stood firmly with Caitríona, insisting she was the true victim, an actress unfairly caught in the crossfire of personal insecurities and public drama. Across social media, hashtags trended daily. Hashtag stand with Brynn, #protect Caitríona, #loyalty like Sam. The scandal had become more than gossip. It was a cultural debate about friendship, love, and the expectations placed on public figures. In the weeks that followed, the dust began to settle, but the scars remained. Brynn's career momentum slowed as she grappled with repairing her image. Caitríona retreated further into her work, focusing on scripts and stage projects that allowed her to channel her emotions into art. And Sam, though outwardly composed, carried the weight of being the fulcrum on which both women's narratives balanced. For him, the ordeal underscored a truth he had always known but never spoken. Loyalty has a cost. It can strain relationships, invite judgment, and ignite explosions. But to abandon it would be to betray not just others, but himself. As time moved forward, questions lingered. Could Brynn forgive the past? Would Caitríona ever step forward to address the storm directly? And would Sam ever find balance between the two worlds tugging at him? No one had answers, But one fact remained clear. Brynn Whitfield's explosive outburst had forever altered the narrative. The scandal was no longer just about a single night. It was about the choices people make when emotions collide, and the lines they refuse to cross even when the world demands it. And for Sam Heughan, the choice was clear, however costly: to stand by Caitríona Balfe, come what may.